everybody! Today we're going to be creating this really fun dinosaur landscape drawing. Obviously, if you don't want to include the dinosaur, you don't have to. But this artwork that we're creating today is based off this artist on Instagram, Jen Aranyi, and I want to show you some of her artwork. She does these beautiful landscapes with the black and white drawing. I love the contrast in the artwork that she has. And contrast is when you have like opposites in an artwork. So when you look at like the black and white drawing part of her designs and then the painted colorful background, it provides a lot of contrast and interest to the artwork. So hers does not include dinosaurs, but I thought it would be a fun little spin to put on it. Obviously you can do yours without the animal and create more like trees and mountains if you like. So to begin this today, you're going to need to gather up some materials. You're going to need to gather some white paper. I use watercolor paper, but obviously a lot of you probably don't have that available, so a regular piece of paper will be fine. Watercolor paints and a brush. A black Sharpie or permanent marker. This could be, doesn't have to be Sharpie. I just love Sharpies and I always have them, but you don't want it to be a washable marker. So it's got to be something that's permanent, okay? It can be fine point Sharpie, regular Sharpie. You're going to need some salt to do the sky, and water, and a pencil and eraser, all right? So let's begin. All right, so to start with our landscape, we're going to draw a horizon line across the paper. Now a horizon line is the line where the ground and the sky meet. So somewhere towards the middle, I mean you can bring it up higher, but the higher your horizon line is, the less of sky you will have. So I'm going to do somewhere in the middle and just go straight across the paper, right there, okay? Now I'm going to create some mountains, the mountains in the background, but I don't just want to do a zigzag line across it. I want it to look more natural and organic. So I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to kind of go up and down and have them all almost like in wiggling lines, have the peaks at different levels. Some really close together, and I'm going to get them all the way across the paper. All right, now I want to create the shadows for the mountain peaks. So at each peak, right at the top, I'm going to come down, straight down, and then come up at like a diagonal, like that. These are going to create some shadows that we're going to add some detail to later. So each one of these shadows, I'll show you what we do in those with markers. Okay, up here. Now I'm going to add little like marks in the mountains and grooves, just by doing like kind of a free form shape. Okay, I'm not going to put them everywhere, but maybe in a few spots I'll do that. Okay, now I'm going to include a body of water in here. So off to the right of my page, I'm going to come around and just kind of create a curved line that goes off the page like that. All right, now we're starting with the pencil. So you make sure that, what I always tell kids, I'm pressing kind of hard so you can see my lines, but if you press too hard while you're drawing yourself, it's going to be really hard to erase if you make mistakes. So draw light until you get it right. That's what I always say. And this is just our, we're kind of mapping out our drawing for when we do the marker part of it. All right, so now I'm going to create my dinosaur, and that's another reason why you want to draw lightly, because we're going to put the dinosaur in the foreground of the picture, and what we're going to create is that long neck brontosaurus dinosaur. So very lightly I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create an oval shape. All right, this is going to be the body of our dinosaur. This is a simple way to start it. Okay, so now I'm going to come in here and erase that part of the water that shouldn't belong there, because our dinosaur is going to be in front of that water. Okay, now, if you don't want to include a dinosaur, you can skip this part. This is completely up to you. Now I'm going to come up and I'm going to create a line that kind of curves and goes up here. And then another one on this side, and a parallel line that runs right next to it. Goes up like this. This is the neck of the dinosaur. I'm going to erase those lines right in the neck, because the dinosaur is going to be in front of the mountain. And obviously this dinosaur technically wouldn't be bigger than mountains, but we're showing some dimension in our picture and perspective. So we want the dinosaur to be big because he's in the foreground or the closest to the viewer. Now I'm gonna make another oval, but a small one for the head of the dinosaur up top, okay? And I can erase that little line where the neck meets, okay? Now to give the details of the face, I'm gonna come in here and create a line for the mouth and a little curved line for where the eye socket's gonna be, and I can make that eye inside of it. It's like, hello, boys and girls, thank you for joining me today, right? Now, I'm gonna come down here and create the tail. So this is gonna be like a long, skinny triangle, and I can make it curve in if I want to as well. So start at the top, make a straight line down, then come over here, and I'm gonna erase this part of the body so that the tail looks more like it's, you know, growing from the body, not just a separate piece. I can darken some of these lines so I can see my dinosaur a little better. Now I'm gonna create the legs, and I'm just gonna do a simple shape. So I'm gonna start here, kind of outline it, and come down like a rectangle. Just a rectangle, and then I'm gonna make a little, once you get that rectangle done, you can erase this little line here. I'm gonna make a little bit of a curved one at the top. Okay, now on this side, I'm gonna do another rectangle. This part's gonna be underneath the body a little bit. Now, to make it look like, you can see, you know, it gives a little more dimension to our dinosaur, we're gonna put a leg back here. It's kind of coming from the tail area. Now this leg is not going to be even with the front leg because it's supposed to be looking like it's farther away because it's on the other side of the dinosaur. So same thing on this side. But those legs, they can be at the same, you know, level. Erase any lines that don't belong anywhere, any overlapping lines. Let's get rid of some of these. Oh, look at that, you got your cute little dinosaur. Now we're going to add a couple rocks in here. And if you didn't want your dinosaur, you might want to add more rocks throughout. Now to make a rock, I'm going to put one in the water, and I'm just going to kind of create like a little wavy line that comes down, give it like a little bit of a rock shape like this, okay? It's sitting in the water. Put some lines here and here. Okay, now I'm going to give that rock some dimension, give it some shadows, put a line there, and then create a line that kind of comes up from the bottom. Right, we're going to put a few more rocks scattered over here as well. So I come up, a little bit of a curved line, and then you can even add, you know, like a little bit of dimension to the rocks. Maybe put some little ones in here. All right, another one over here. Erase this line. Don't forget to erase those overlapping lines. Create some more shadows that are going to come in. Okay, you can add some more rocks throughout. Now I'm going to put some foliage in here because this is the time of the dinosaurs. So there's a lot of foliage, a lot of trees, a lot of ferns, plants like that. So I'm going to create some ferns in the foreground. I'm not going to do the whole detail yet until I use the markers. So I'm just going to start with some lines. And then we're going to do diagonal lines on each side. It kind of gives that feather look. Okay, so it's one diagonal line from this side and one from that, and they meet in the middle. And I'm going to do that all the way down. But as you get towards the bottom, they're going to be bigger, those lines. Okay, you can even have some overlapping. And it might get a little confusing when you start overlapping these shapes, but you can fix it later. So, up. That. Maybe one's even in front of or overlapping the dinosaur. If you have one, that is. Okay, there's some more. Now I'm going to create some trees. Now, once again, to create some perspective in your drawing, you want to include things that are small, that are far away in the background, things that are larger and closer up, which we started doing. We've got our dinosaur in the foreground. We got some rocks and some ferns coming up. Now we're going to put some trees off in the distance. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make some lines just to show the trees and that size. We're going to add the detail to them later. I'm going to put some some in here. I'm going to put one here. And I'm going to put some, now these are going to be evergreen trees. This right here is going to be a little different. So I'm going to add a straight line that goes up. And then I'm going to make, to make branches, you're basically making a bunch of Ys. So I put a line, a diagonal line here, and now I have a Y. I put one here, there's, see the other Y. And then they kind of grow off like that. I'm going to put a couple of those. And those will be in the foreground. And this one's going to go almost totally out of the sky there. All right, so we got a few trees. Okay, now what I'm going to do is come in with my marker. Now I asked everybody to get a permanent or non-washable marker because we are going to be painting the sky and we don't want that to run. So I've got a regular fine point Sharpie. All right, or I also have an ultra fine point. You can use either. You can use both. You can do a combination of both if you like. And what I'm going to start doing is tracing my lines and adding my details and shadows. All right, so I come in here, go over my mountains. Sharpie, but if you don't have it, you can just use the regular one. And I'm just creating these diagonal lines. These are creating the shadows, just like the artist Jen Aranyi did for hers. And I'm just going to basically do some wiggly lines. See how I did that? So you come in, you just kind of do like wavy lines, connecting to the branches. And then just a few little squiggles throughout, make it look like the appearance of leaves instead of having to draw each individual leaf. Okay, come in, don't forget to start with that line, and the easy way to do them is you just do, kind of like we did our fern, but in the opposite direction, these upside down V's, like that. That will give you the evergreen. Okay, I like to just kind of scribble them down for the background, but you can keep doing it the same way I just showed you. For those ferns, I trace those lines I made, and then I'm just going to kind of scribble almost back and forth little lines over each one of those little fern shapes you made. Using the one that you have, and I'm going to get some more of those lines in the shadows of the rocks. Give lines underneath to create a shadow in the water where that rock is touching it. Make it appear like it's in the water, in the ground in the water. Shadows in here. I'll make sure you guys can see what I'm doing here. One there. If you want to add a little bit of some shadows in the dinosaur a little bit, you can. Maybe some in here in the legs, because this leg is in front of that one. Create some shadows in here. Look at that. Oh, I got another tree over here I didn't finish. There we go. All right. Now, Jen Aranyi also adds like some kind of marks in the mountains to give it more of that rocky look. So I'm going to just put some of those in as well. You see me doing that one. I don't want it to be like everywhere, but I'm going to put them throughout the picture. And you'll often see her doing some little marks of grass sometimes in the ground that she creates. Okay, so the drawing part is finished, and now I'm going to show you guys how to create the sky. This is the most fun, I think. So now you're going to be getting out your watercolor paints, your water and your salt. Oops, sorry about that. Now we're going to start with a technique called wet on wet. And that is basically what that means is wet paint on wet paper. So we're going to take our paintbrush, we're going to dip it in our water, and we are going to put the water over the sky. So don't get it into your mountains. I'm going to go over these branches because it'll show through with the black. But I'm going to go around the leaves on the top of these trees if you created anything like that. So in here, just get it wet. around the mountain, around the leaves, over the mountains. You don't want to get the water in these spots because you don't want the paint from the sky to go over these areas. We're going to leave it white, just like Jen Aranyi paint. You guys see how there's like trays here? So you can even mix colors a little bit on here. Like if you don't have a turquoise, but you want it in your sky, you can take a little bit of blue. And the reason why watercolor palettes look like this is so that you can mix the watercolor right there. So I'm going to take some blue, just so I can show you guys. You take your blue, you put it there. To make a turquoise, you would then put green with it, like a regular leafy green. You'll see, I just got to rinse my brush a little bit more, and you'll start to see a turquoise forming. Have a little bit of brown there. And that's if you don't have a turquoise. There's your blue and your green. Okay, I do in mine. So now I'm just going to start, and I'm just going to start to add my paint on my paper. Remember to get around those. You can go over the branches, but you don't want to go, get a little more water in this area. You don't want to go over your mountains and your dinosaur and that. So get it all in here. Now I'm going to come in, I'm going to get some like magenta in there too. Okay, so the more water that you put on your paintbrush, the lighter and more diluted your color is going to be. So like if you really want a pink, but you only have a red, just put a lot of water on your brush and you'll get more of a pink than you will a red. You can also create a magenta color, which is basically created by mixing a red and a purple. Okay, so I'm coming in here. Oh, that's pretty. And I'm just kind of like painting around in the areas. I'm creating, but you could do all different colors for the sky. You got to be really careful though. I usually tell kids to stick to the colors that are in the same color family or on the same side of the color wheel. So like keep your warm colors together, like your reds, your yellows, your oranges, and then keep your like blues and greens and that together. Otherwise you'll start to get brown when you're mixing like a green with like an orange. So you got to really be careful. Now I'm going to add, I'm going to add a little turquoise in here too. See how pretty that is? Now you want to work kind of quickly and you want it to be wet because the next technique we're going to be using is we're going to throw salt in the paper, and that's going to kind of crystallize it and give it a really cool effect, almost like a nighttime sky if you were doing darker, like stars in the sky. Okay, so we do want to keep it to more of a kind of nighttime looking sky. So, get it all in here. I think that is pretty good. I'm going to put a little bit of purple in here too. I'm just going to let. And now I'm going to take my salt and I put it in a little cup. And I'm just going to pinch it and I'm going to sprinkle it over the paint. Now, the effect won't really show until this starts to dry more. So don't be discouraged if right away it doesn't look like you thought it would look. But it does have to be wet, so you have to work kind of quickly. So once that dries, you'll get your finished project.